peek my head. Anybody? Are we missing anybody?
Calvin.
Yeah.
A couple of TV people.
We got a light group today, Coach.
I was gonna say, man, he got you, huh?
You know, David takes about 2 months off. You know, he's,
Is that right?
That's, he's probably Isle of Capri somewhere.
How much time will you take off?
He's in Alaska.
He's Alaska. See,
Oh, that's a
he's in Alaska. And,
good time to go to Alaska.
And Robot is in Greece.
Nice.
Why did you do that? He laughing about it.
You called him the robot.
Who was I talking about?
You know exactly who you're talking about.
So, who gets the first question? First question.
My name's Mike's just out.
Hi.
I'm just counting.
You didn't.
He's healthy.
No CD and Noah are out today. You're able to work a lot of the young guys. What do you think of what Tolbert was able to do?
It was great to have him back out there. I thought, he's really had two really good days, Tuesday and today. So, yeah, this is frankly what we talked about at the team meeting. This is a great opportunity for the younger players to, practice more than anticipated, and also it's a really good experience for our veterans, to get reps with those guys too. So, injuries are part of it. We're got a few guys that are nicked up, but it's been really good work.
Talk about the short situation, and he didn't come to work this week. Will you expect him at minicamp next week?
Dalton?
Yes.
Yeah, I think, clearly Dalton's situation, you have business situations that happen all the time in this league. And so I had a long talk with him on Friday about it, but we'll see what next week brings.
How some of those younger tight ends looking, the young room back there behind, how are they looking?
I mean, they're doing really good. This is a hard week. This is a hard week for the rookies. You have 8 installs. I know we talked about this last week. So, this week was 5, 6, and 7. So they've hit the wall in certain areas. And in the tight end group is obviously outside of quarterback is one of the more challenging positions to play just for the volume of scheme. But I think those guys have done a nice job. And I think the other part of it too is the special teams work. So I like what they're doing on special teams too.
How do you walk that balance between when a guy, there's a business situation with Dalton, but you want to see him on the field? How do you come down on that?
I don't look at it as a balance. I think that they're two different entities. Business is business, and I'm in the business of winning football games. So we all have contracts. We all have these type of situations that come about. Timings obviously plays into these decisions and transactions, and now. It takes you as a head coach. It takes you a few to get used to it. But I think you have to learn to separate things. And in this world, it's too competitive. There's too much work to be done. And Dalton deserves this position that he's in. And so hopefully we can get it worked out.
Do you take the mindset out of sight, out of mind? Worry about him when he's here?
Not necessarily. I mean, Dalton's been here. Dalton's been here every single day. Since the season's been completed. So I don't think there's been a week where I haven't seen Dalton. So so I'm not worried about his commitment or what he's done. I mean, he's in great shape. If he was standing here, he'd tell you this is the strongest he's ever been. So I mean, he's put a tremendous amount of work into the offseason, and I think this is clearly why I separate it. It's business. It's business that he's tended to, and it's understood. But to think that he hasn't done the work would not be accurate.
Before we get back to the team, you guys had a diversity summit here with high school coaches. Why was that important? And just talk about what you guys accomplished.
Well, I think it's always important, obviously to give back, and I thought it was a great idea. I enjoyed it. It's a great bunch of I don't say young guys. A couple of guys are my age, but just a great bunch of guys, and I enjoyed my time with them, and actually I think I went close to an hour, and even told them if some of these other speakers don't cut it, come back and get me. I'll go again, because I think just like anything, when coaches get in the room, we could talk forever. I mean, we're talking about practice schedules, for God's sake, So I think just to give insight, experience. And frankly, just a curiosity. I'd probably ask them as many questions as they ask me, just to, the challenges that they have and, things that they have to deal with in high school. And, just like anything, we're all in a position that we can continue to learn. So I really enjoyed the interaction.
The NFL has the issue, obviously, with minority coaches and head coaches. And I think going to the grassroots level will help fill that pool to?
Oh, everything helps. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think everything helps. You know, I think anytime you can continue education, spread experience, and interact, there's only good that's going to come out of it. You know, even if you disagree on the approach or the aspects of the conversation. So yeah, I think it's all healthy.
Looked like there were a few veterans, JK, Lee Cooker, like just they were there but not participating. Is that like with an eye on mini camp or just?
I'm sorry, is that with a?
Is it like, or are you resting guys with an eye on having them ready?
No, just guys are dealing with things, and I mean, and frankly, this is not a bad time to get the young guys a little more work. So it's we're watching the reps, and if they got something minor, like we have a number of guys that are dealing with minor things and nothing major. So we're just being really smart this time of year, and frankly, with a 90-man roster, it works out.
Micah, go ahead. You touched on it a little bit, but last week you said next week's going to be a grinder.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, next week is here. So do you factor in to the workload and the schedule and the installation that it's going to be a grinder, so you back off, or do you try to get a feel for where they are in terms of, can you see them?
Oh, no, definitely. I think if you keep track of the timing of practice today, I mean, today's practice, Monday's practice were clearly our shortest workload, workload capacity of the whole off-season program. So that's by design. So my goal is clearly to get these 8 installs in, just to make sure our rookies and our whole football team's is totally exposed to everything that's going to be asked of them when we get back together in Oxnard, California. So, and we can get that done in the walkthroughs and that type of thing too. So the on the work is driven by the health and who's practicing that day, and it's just trying to be smart. Obviously the type of practices you have to run, because really the challenge this week, in my experience, has been, you have your harder installs, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then, you start resting your veteran guys a little bit. Now the younger guys are playing a little more, which has happened through attrition of injury. So now they're running some of the newer things, and it just, because let's be honest, practice today wasn't very good. I mean, it's just, there's some sloppy moments in it. Where on the flip side of that, Tuesday's practice was our best practice. So you're still going through that phase of on and off and trying to get things clean. And the challenge is it's a new install for the young guys. So yeah, this is kind of normal. We had some sloppy plays today.
How do you balance the physicality of it? You don't want to be too physical at this time of year. You want to wait
Totally.
until July.
Yeah, I mean, we had 2 young guys today that got a little rambunctious, and had a chance to visit with them, both afterwards, and just on all fronts. You got to practice the same way, and frankly, and it gets this way in about the second week too at training camp. It's guys are going against each other every day, and you get up to the 4th, 5th, 6th padded practice, things start to get a little chippy, and I think us playing against or practicing against 2 teams this year will probably help that part of it. But we're at that point. These guys are, we're trying to practice safe and be smart, and definitely after the 5th step in the rush part of it, and keeping things clean around the pocket and all that, and but they're human. It was hot. This is our hottest day, and it got a little chippy out there today.
Mike, I was talking to Jalen first just about his versatility, being able to kind of play inside, the linebacker-ish and the safety and all that. He just loves the fact that you guys let him do both of those things. How valuable is that? Having a guy who is able to impact the game in so many different ways on the back end, and being able to kind of use him in different aspects on the defense.
JK's been tremendous since he arrived here last year, and just having a chance to watch him as a young player in Minnesota. He was such a demon on special teams. I mean, just definitely a targeted, focused player, competing against him, and frankly, his experience in Detroit, I know, really raised my eyebrows where they did some of this matchup on tight ends with him in their dime defense. So that was the vision of him, but he's knocked it out of the park with his opportunity last year. So he's given us tremendous flexibility. The matchup capabilities he gives us. The position flex is outstanding, and I'll be honest with you. And the guy's got great ball skills too. I mean, I think that's something that goes. I mean, his long levers and his instincts and awareness, smart, tough. So I mean, he's been a great addition to our football team.
And he was talking about safeties and maybe their value maybe going up a little bit, it feels like, in general. I don't know how much you want to
Well,
speak to
it's
that.
just kind of like Dalton's deal. It's a business decision. I stay out of those things. So I'm not the value guy. So
Talking about young players.
I'd pay him whatever he wants if I had the money. I'll just say that.
Talking about young players getting reps, it looks like Matt Letzko's gotten a lot of opportunity during this. Just what's your impression of what he's been able to do?
He's doing a really good job. I just when guys have extra length and know it and they use it and they play, I mean that's something that he knows. He plays to his assets, but he's like everybody else. He's still getting through the scheme part of it, but he's a very consistent, and I think he's a great fit. And the fact that he can play left tackle and right tackle definitely helps us.
I don't know if you saw Micah home run derby performance or just caught any videos of that, but
No, I've heard about it. Though. I've heard about it.
I'm sure.
My medical report today. So, yeah, he was hitting the ball too far, straight in the shoulder.
Oh, all right.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he was hitting the ball too far.
Well, I know he's hitting too far, but I'm just talking
No,
about.
he's fine. He's fine.
When he does something like that,
We saw Jim talk to him.
is there anything you can't do? I mean, I'm not trying to.
Oh, physically?
Yeah, like.
It's interesting, and it happens almost every practice. We were going half line pass today, with a third down emphasis, and the backs were coming out of the backfield running the flat route, and he broke on the ball. I think it was Will or maybe it was Cooper, and as soon as he come out of his stance, you knew it. Boy, obviously, please don't throw it to the back. But he's rare. I mean, he's rare the way he can put his foot in the ground and just explode. So yeah, physically, he's. To answer your question, I don't know if there's anything you can't do. I agree with you.
Are you aware that after he went out for batting practice, he bought his own bat from Dick's to up the stakes and make sure he had his best chance? And what does that say about his competitiveness?
Yeah, I think that's right in line with just the way he goes about everything every day. Super competitive. Way you see him whether he's playing chess or goofing around. So I think that's definitely part of his greatness. And for a young man, he's done a lot quickly. But man, I mean, he is extremely gifted.
You've talked before about being draft and develop, and you have to keep your own guys to make that a successful program. How hard is it to do that these days? To stay ahead of the game.
Well, I think everybody in the league has the same goals. You want to draft the best draft class you can, and I think it's been really good that we've been able to get up there around 10 picks a year. I think it's really been my experience in this league as a head coach. That's all I know. So have a lot of experience at it, and I think when you're in that mode, as long as I've been, I think the importance of the second contract, which every GM and every cap guy in this league is trying to get done. So I mean, the ability to get second contracts is important. That's you're getting into the point of a guy's career, 26, 27, 28 years old, where they're in their physical prime. So I mean, all that's part of the thinking. I mean, that's all part of the formula. But yes, second contracts are important. It's important to that your draft class has grown and they've been given the opportunities, which. And obviously, if you're maxing out your second contract opportunities, obviously I think it speaks to the depth and the experience of your football team.
Talk a lot about Parsons and the second year jump for him and a lot of other guys. What about Diggs going to year 3, especially after the year he had?
Yeah, and not that we're giving the guys from 2020 a pass, but this is really the first offseason we've had. And you can really see this rookie class as far as where they are today compared to the last two. I mean, the first group wasn't, we didn't even see each other until July. And then last year, we had, the ins and outs of it all. So where this group here, clearly from the day they were drafted and the Zoom calls that the players and coaches, I mean, you could see the impact of that, and you could see the extra time that these guys are putting in. It's really been beneficial. I've been very, very impressed just with the maturity and the understanding that these guys know that they're at a great place. They have a facility that gives them an incredible opportunity to maximize this opportunity. We're here as coaches for them, and coming in here over the weekend, you see 10 of them that are here in the weight room or in the hot tub or in the steam, or down there in the players' lounge. So this group has made a big impression not only on me and the coaching staff, but also the veteran players. So, and that's what you're looking for. That's when we talk about culture, when we talk about program development, draft and develop. This is what I'm talking about.
What have you had Diggs work on this offseason? Was he taking too many chances last year?
Well,
how do you look at what he did?
Chances are playing aggressive. I think there's a fine line between that, and I would say, a big part of his success in, with his ball skills, I don't know. I'm trying to think back over the years. I mean, obviously, Dion in some of those, when the ball went up in the air, you just assumed Dion was coming down with it. I mean, Diggsy has some of that too. You're not throwing 50-50 balls when you throw it his way. So, and you don't get that way by playing cautious too. So it's balanced. He's young, big play production. You got to have it to score points and stop points in this league. So that's part of it. But I'm clearly in tune with some of the plays that were made against him. But hey, the guy gets his hands on the ball and he's a dangerous weapon. And the ultimate compliment is when they stop throwing over there. So that will be the goal.
Has he changed his body physically at all this offseason? He looks a little thicker.
Yeah, I mean, no, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I think he's making. I'd say he's on a normal curve, as far as his development.
So just piggybacking on. So they haven't stopped going at it, even though he's a 50-50 guy, or whatever else.
Well, we have to. We're in install phase right now. So
no. I'm saying you said to go for other teams to stop going at him.
Well, I think it's a compliment to if you think of the great corners that played in this league. It's just I always. Because the only time I ever seen Deion Sanders play was 1995. We played down here at Thanksgiving, and he was nursing a hamstring, and he played, kept Coors and Darren Woodson kept coming up on the tight end. And, we were getting the post throw, and we kept throwing it, and he kept limping back there, catching it, or getting his hands on it. And I can remember the bus ride home. Actually, Herman Evers was his secondary coach. He was like, "What the hell were you guys thinking about going after Deion?" I said, "Well, it's quarters. The post was open." He's like, "Quarters? It's Deion Sanders." So. That's, and I think that's where, any aspiring young corner would like to get to someday with that, that type of respect, and hopefully we're talking about him someday like that.
I guess what we're saying, is there a balance between being aggressive and being that guy and also being more fundamentally sound?
Yeah, definitely. No, that's part of playing. It's part of growing in this league. It's part of the, the defense philosophy, but I think it's clearly the way we want our guys to play is, we're aggressive. We're aggressive with our scheme. We're doing more in disguise. I think our disguise is. I thought it was good last year. I think it's really improved. So yeah, it's just all about getting better and challenging the defense. So yeah, we're not a bend. We're not a bend don't break defense.
Mike, when you started talking about developing through your draft and improving younger players, does that take even a more importance this year, looking at some of the veteran guys you lost in free agency for some of these young guys to step up?
Well, it's important every year, but I agree with your point. I think the urgency of it is really the focus. I think if you can draw up a season and you'd say, boy, I hope I don't have to play with the rookies until mid-October. But you look at last year, we played how many rookies are played there in the first 5 weeks. I mean, it's about as high as I've ever been a part of, just on the defensive side of the ball. So, and that's why we approach it the way we do. I mean, we got to get these guys as ready, and I talk openly about this to the team. There's a gap between your rookie class and your veteran every year, and how fast we can close that gap with the help of the veterans. Obviously, we're coaching them, but that's all part of that culture that we've created here.
We talked about how Micah can be a mismatch challenge if people don't know if dropping coverage or pass rushing. Is Tony already a mismatch coverage? And if not, how much does he have to play in both the receiving game and the running game before teams start thinking of him that way, or opponents?
Oh, I think he has that respect as a perimeter player. But I mean, if you break him down, which the defenses have done, and we'll continue to focus on. You look at his route tree, so we got to be, in tune with that. Are we just going to play him out there and run a couple things, or is he going to be a legitimate receiver threat? So, I mean, those are things that you look at and work on in the offseason, and Tony has, those characteristics and capabilities to do all that.
Like,
Oh, go ahead, Joe first.
Leighton was asked earlier this week about being a little more productive toward the end of last season, and he said, if you put me out there the whole game, that's what you're going to get from me. I guess, what can he show that he didn't show last year, and do you think that's just the case for most guys, or what can he do if given more time?
Well, I just think like anything, and hey, if your players don't want to play every play in the game, then something's wrong. So I think just really, the 17-game season is a really, big focus of mine when you talk about play time, and we go through this the whole week of the game, then we sit down on Saturday and we have a pretty, a projected play time that is definitely, it's the benefit of the player, but it's definitely the benefit of our team over the course of the year. So, and that gets to be a rub sometimes, but it's all done with the intent of winning a championship. It's a long year. I mean, this league is super competitive, and we all know that you got to play your best football in November, December if you want to make it count. So that all goes into these decisions. They all go into the planning. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to change Leighton's mindset at all. I mean, and I think his off-season work has been impressive. And I don't know if he's talked specifically about that, but this is the best that he's looked, I know, in my time with him. So I think he's having a heck of an offseason.
Mike, with Micah, excuse me, people say teams will be ready for him this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like halftime adjustments. If you wait till halftime, it's over. So
Yeah.
teams last year kind of knew where he was and who he was. But at what point did you see teams starting to kind of account for him when they broke the hump?
Yeah, and I think really the ability to keep playing them on and off is helpful to that. And that's really, we've talked about this here before, and my first experience was Clay Matthews, because if Clay always lined up on the left, as an offensive play caller, I mean, it's a lot easier to call that help protection when you know where the guy is every time. So the fact of the matter is, when you move him back and he plays the off level and he's on different sides, and we even went as far as playing Clay at technically the nickel position, conceptually, just to keep creating targeting problems for him. And that's really the same thought process for Micah. It's about targeting because they're trust me, they're going to know where he's at. I mean, he may be playing the linebacker position, but I would think most offensive protection schemes will declare him as the rusher. So, and we're aware of all that, but it's just, we're just trying to create opportunities that, if they do travel and keep the 4-on-3 and the 3-on-2 all the time, that, we're creating two really good one-on-ones on the backside of that.
Back on Dalton for a second, just to clarify. Will he be here? Has he told you he will be here next week for the minicamp?
We haven't discussed that so far. I mean, my conversation with him was he was gonna miss this week, and it was to focus on his business situation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.